for her, residential fits her like a sock fitting a rooster. The one big difference, at 9:30, I'm screaming at her to turn that damn cell phone off. There's not a person open for business at 9:30 at night.
No, sir.
She says, I don't want you to communicate with me at all.
No,
Just send me a check.
And residential just does a great job of organization, understanding business development, filling out a form, and understanding filing paperwork.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to Hustle Humbly. It's Alyssa and Katie, and we are two top producing realtors in the Baton Rouge market.
We work for two different companies where we should be competitors, but we have chosen community over competition.
The goal of our podcast is to encourage you to find your own way in business.
So stop comparing yourself and start embracing your strengths. Hi, Alyssa.
Hey, Katie.
It's episode number 147.
Okay.
Commercial versus residential.
And we have Carl Landreneau, who is the number one person I thought of.
He just told me his name was Boudreaux.
Yes. Boudreaux Landreneau. Did they call you Boudreaux Landreneau?
In CCIM world only.
Okay.
Only. Okay.
Well, Carl, tell us a little bit about your real estate background, because I know at one point you did a little bit of residential. How long have you been in the commercial world? Tell us about how you came to be where you are now.
Okay. Well, in a prior life, I had a different business, and I chose to sell that business and didn't know what I was going to do. So a friend of mine said, go get into real estate. So I ended up getting into real estate.
How old were you?
Oh, my gosh. Probably 40.
Okay.
In the 30s, yeah. So I had a whole another career in industrial sales and industrial and commercial printing and what have you. So I jumped into residential without doing any study, went to school, got my license, went to work for a small company and that did mostly residential. So I did a little bit of residential. Then I went to another company and got into commercial and found out real quick that my personality and residential didn't work.
Okay, I want to hear more about that. Why? Right. What about your personality?
Yeah, what's the difference?
Well, I'll start with your opening remark, residential versus commercial. As you know, I go around and I teach for the CCIM Institute, but I also have written a course called Resi-Mercial.
That's interesting. So,
Resi-Mercial. And I open this statement always. I don't think there's one better than the other. I don't think it's residential versus commercial, but I think it's a personality. Alicia knows my wife, and I think that for her, residential fits her like a sock fitting a rooster. Mm-hmm. For me, the last time I showed a house, I showed some friends a house, probably 25 houses, and at the last deal, everything worked, and I was a bit impatient. And the wife said, "This is the perfect house." And I'm going, finally, I'm going to write a contract. And she says, "Except the bedroom is not the right color." So I reached in my pocket and I said, "Here's $20. Go to Home Depot, buy a gallon of paint and make it the right color." That was my last residential.
You're like, I'm never doing this again.
I will never do this again. Mm-hmm. So it's a personality thing in what you like.
Right.
But it's not one is better than the other. They're two different animals.
But they're so different, right?
They're completely different animals. And when you said, tell us the difference, the big difference is you have residential real estate. Everybody knows what residential real estate is, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then everything else is commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what is commercial real estate? It's not just an office. It's not just an industrial warehouse. It's not just land. There are multitudes of what's classified as commercial real estate.
So it's just a lot more segmented. Like when you're residential, you're selling a house or a condo or a townhome, and you're kind of like, that's it, right?
And it's
That's
the same process, no matter really what it is.
Exactly. In Louisiana, if I'm right, and you can correct me, we have in residential real estate one purchase agreement for every size house, from $100,000 to $10 million house. You use the same form.
Yep.
In commercial real estate, and I'm employed by, I manage NAI Light and Bloom in Louisiana, and we have a purchase agreement template, and I would venture to say that 90% of every deal is written on a different purchase agreement.
Mm.
And we have inserts
Do you have to
for
make
everyone.
them up, or they just have addendums that y'all have on file?
We have, over the years, accumulated inserts into a template.
Okay.
So, like if you're doing land, you need a special deal because of flood, right?
Sure.
Right.
And then you have DEQ, and then you have mineral rights. Mineral rights are an animal
in commercial.
In commercial, and then you have air rights, and you have user rights, and it gets again. It's just each one is a little bit different. Again, it's knowing, and my deal in commercial real estate to my agents is, we only have two things. We have relationships and education. And that's the only two things you need. And it's real easy for me to sit here and say, oh, you need education and you need relationships. That's easy to say. Attain that is a different story.
And that's really also true in residential.
That is true.
Like if you want to build a stable long-term business, you need relationships and you need education. Right. I mean, ultimately that's like the basis, a good foundation. All right. So while we're on commercial being so many things, are there some main, like I know there's retail, and then what would you say are the main, and do your agents, they're more niche, right? Like they specialize in one thing.
Like if you're a retail agent, do they just do retail?
No, well, we'll start from the beginning.
Okay, let's start from the beginning.
It's a great segue for this. The one main thing in commercial, first of all, is market size. We have three primary markets in the United States. Let's just keep it at that. But you have something called the primary market, which is New York, Dallas, and Houston. Okay. Then you have a secondary market, the St. Louis's and that Cleveland and what have you, secondary. Then you have a tertiary market. Louisiana is a tertiary market. Some people would argue me down that New Orleans would be secondary. I'll argue New Orleans is still tertiary.
Okay.
So you start there. So as you start in those marketplaces, commercial real estate specialties change and how you do them. An example, I have in my Baton Rouge office, I have guys that do office, some retail, and some industrial. If I was in Houston or Dallas, an industrial guy would have a 6 square block territory, and that's all he did.
That's
it. That's specialized.
Now, let's even go to the primary market. I have a good friend in New York, and he's in the office business.
We're one building?
One building.
One building.
That's his whole career.
That's his career. One building, 30 floors or whatever it is, and all he does is lease administration, lease abstracting for that building.
For the one building.
Wow.
So that's how that's kind of where it starts. In Louisiana, in a tertiary marketplace, you can't make a living specializing in one area.
Because there's not enough deals.
There's not enough. That's right. That's exactly right.
I didn't realize how small our marketplace is in comparison to the big cities until Trends.
Right.
And they did the analogy. They did the side by side of this is what's going on in Houston and this is what's going on in Baton Rouge. And I was like, wow.
Right.
I mean, it was astronomical.
Yeah. It's just like in Houston, for instance, and we do a lot of business, but because of our NAI affiliation, we do business in a lot of places, or we are able to network. And Houston right now has more square foot of sublet office space available on the market than we have in Louisiana total.
Wow.
Of Class A office space ready to go. So that just gives you the kind of the deal. And so I'm also a big proponent of my young guns when they come on board, that they don't choose a specialty.
Okay, that's great. I want to hear about that.
When someone comes to you and says, I think I want to be in commercial real estate, they're pretty serious. What are the first steps for them?
The first steps is that I'm not a good interviewer. So, but I have certain things, clues that I can go off of. Number one, if in the first 15 minutes that I'm interviewing or speaking to them in a small conference room, and they ask me what the commission is or how much money I can make, they will not get hired. period. They done. Well, I'll be nice and
Right.
to them, but they won't get a job.
So you
with
won't,
me.
you don't hire everybody.
I do not hire everybody. The second thing is then I go through an explanation of my philosophy of commercial versus residential. And it depends on where they're coming from and what experience they have. We have an intern program, so I get a lot of my agents. I do very little recruiting. My agents come from my intern program that are either marketing or business majors out of the universities in the 5 cities that we're in.
So they come to
so
you.
not just LSU, but
Right,
the other
LSU,
cities.
Tulane,
Wow.
Magnes.
and they haven't even
UL
gotten a
and
real
Lafayette.
estate license at that point.
No,
Got it.
no. They do that after we kind of groom them. And my intern program is set up that they're not just gophers. They're not allowed to deliver a purchase agreement or go pick up a key or any of that. They work on specific projects for senior agents so they can develop their skill sets and what they'll need. So we've been very fortunate with that program.
How long is the program?
I've had people there for 3 years. I had people there for 6 months.
Okay.
So it just really depends how you fit.
It's a paid internship.
A very little pay.
Okay.
Very little pay.
Well,
but the other thing in the interview process that I think is an analogy I use always between residential and commercial is that if you compare the two to track, residential real estate is short distance running. Your contracts, generally speaking, or from the time you sign a contract to the time you close, you're talking 30, 45 days, and that's when you get your money. In commercial real estate, it's related to long distance running. And so you're looking at, you're real lucky if you can close something in 90 days, probably 120. I have my personal longest deal I ever did when I was a producing agent was 2 years and 9 months.
Wow.
From contract to close. I have an agent who made a couple years ago made a 7-figure commission. And I heard both of you take a deep breath. And if you're out there taking a deep breath, that's really a deep breath, and that is a big commission. The downside that it took him 7 years and 3 months to get paid.
Wow. And he had to work on it
He worked on it the full 7 years, and it was
time.
up and down. It was a land acquisition for a large chemical plant, but everything, we talked about, all the differences in purchase agreements, it fell apart. It actually died and had a fall until it came back. And so it's a different world. So your pipeline has to be different.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what it would come out to if he was paid by the hour.
Oh,
it
was,
long time.
and he was fortunate that he's a seasoned senior agent. He could withstand that 7 years.
Well,
Yeah.
he had different other deals going on at the same time.
A few, but not a lot. But he was in a situation, I don't want to mislead you that he couldn't, but anybody doing, we call it the river stuff on the Mississippi River, every one of those deals is a minimum of a year.
Oh, that's, yeah.
What about a lease deal versus a purchase deal, time-wise?
Again, that depends. Everything we do,
Depends.
when I'm teaching, I always tell the students the first day, the most correct answer. If I ask you a question, if you don't know the answer to that question, it depends.
Sure.
And that is a correct answer because it always depends. So, and this is where this resi-commercial or the residential agent has a hard time, in my opinion. And that hard time is that you do a deal and in 30, 45 days, you get your money. Mm-hmm. You do a lease deal. Mm-hmm. So it's number one, it starts, what kind of lease is it? So if you negotiate how you're going to get paid, so you can get paid on lease execution half, and then you can get paid on the other half when they occupy. Mm. Well, if you're doing a build out, that could be 90 days, 6 months.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Then you get into tenant representation and how commissions are split, and they're not 50-50. It's negotiable.
Sure.
Then how do you get paid? And the landlords have become, in my opinion, not that I agree with it, but they've become educated to the leasing business and the tenant longevity of that lease.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they pay me up front, and that was the old way, you get paid for the term of the lease up front when they moved in. And that was kind of like a sale. All right. But then all of a sudden, what happens when that tenant moves out? Well, I'm not in the property management business.
Right.
So
Yeah, you're gone.
Don't call me and
Not
ask
my
me for my
problem.
commission. I'm not giving you the commission back. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You were supposed to take care of that. And that's kind of crude, but we go through that.
Right.
And explain it. Well, the landlords now come in, and it's very common for a 5-year lease to be paid 5 times. You get it
Each year.
Get the term divided by 5 in each year. So now the agent has to invoice and has to collect, or the company does.
Wow.
Okay, and then it's gotten worse. Not worse, but another thing that we're seeing, especially in the tertiary marketplace, the small strip centers and stuff where you have a 500 square foot tenant, or maybe 1,000 square foot tenant, and they sign a 5-year lease, and the landlord pays you monthly, so you get 60 checks, 60
man.
invoices
Each month.
So do you want to be in the
Then
leasing
the
business?
bookkeeping.
And the bookkeeping's a
Oh,
nightmare.
man.
The admin of that.
So we have the technology in place to handle that, but that becomes an area where if you're doing basically retail in that area, is you have to do a lot of them because your checks are $100,
Tiny. Yeah.
$60.
Okay.
Whoa.
That really brings me to an important question. So your standard, I know it depends, but your standard commercial agent in your office, you're running the mill and you're in this market, how many deals would they do in a year?
Is there an average?
Is there? Like in residential, they tell you.
Yeah, but that's another issue when you ask that kind of question. You have one product, so that's easy to say.
Yeah.
And then you can take your product and you can put it on a map, and you can actually know your submarket, know your price range, and that's where you ought to be spending your business or your time doing that kind of business. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but the data is easy to gather.
Yeah.
So you asking me how many do they do, and the answer is it depends. What do they do? So the first thing is, what discipline are they practicing in? If it's a large land deal, 3 deals a year.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe I have a better question.
Okay.
How do they get paid? And is there more of like an average, amount of money they're making in a year?
Okay. So that number one, I've sat on several national panels discussing the probably biggest disadvantage of being in commercial real estate. And that is that you get paid commissions for, generally speaking. So we lose some of the best and the brightest and the youngest coming out of college because they can go to work for a lender, they can go to work for an insurance company, and they get X dollars.
Right.
They know.
It's just easier to plan.
So they know that. But you take a young kid that comes to work for me, and they're all young kids to me. So, but they come to work for me, and they starve for 2 years, and in that 3rd year, they have their buddy at the bank. They got to his level, and the next year they bypassed him, and they'll continue for my producers to go to the top.
So it's similar in residential.
Absolutely.
Each year, we always tell our listeners the first 3 years, you don't know what you're going to make, if you're going to make. You got to budget and save and really be diligent during that time. And then the success ratio for residential agents is that 3 out of 10 will make it.
Right.
Will make it.
So nearly 70% fail.
Yeah. And I would say even commercial and residential as a whole, the biggest misconception in my opinion, and I won't hire this person either, is somebody that says they want to do it part-time or have another little job. Can't do it. You can't. That's not true. You can make a few bucks, maybe. You can get in a lot of trouble for certain.
Yeah.
And
for certain.
And the other thing though is you will never succeed and go forth with your career. You won't.
What
make it
would
a
you
career.
say from your experience with all the people you interview? Would the success rate be? Like if you interviewed 10 people, how many do you think would make it?
I would say we are a little bit different in the fact that because of our intern program and the people we bring in, they know it. They know they're going to starve. So our success rate is probably a little bit better. I'd say maybe 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
That depends. Now, the biggest compliment that we get, and I'm extremely biased about education. I'm extremely biased about CCIM, extremely biased about SIO or CRE, those designations. This year already, not already, but this year, I've had 2 top producing agents be hired out of primary markets, and they hired them because they work for us and the way we do business on the technology side, and both of them had designations.
Yeah.
And they were hired at salaries and great positions in Texas.
That's awesome.
And I counted it as a compliment, not as
a loss.
And then what just happened in this particular case, and I will say, in our business, it was a female that was offered a job, and she took it. It was a great job, and I said, hey, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. I mean, with what you telling me they offering, if you don't take the job, give them my name. It was that kind of deal.
You're like, I'll go.
Yeah, I'll go.
but the real thing is that happened. She was actually working with another senior agent, and it did real well last year. So we just brought in one of the interns that'll have his license next week, and he's going to take her spot under this senior agent.
Great.
So that is how we kind of, it's not a promotion from within, but it's because of commission, because of independent contractor status, it puts them in a place to be more successful quicker and not starve as long.
Of your office, what would you say, because is there a lot of females? I haven't seen, we don't have a big female presence in our marketplace in commercial.
Commercial, there's a huge push on diversity and what have you. It's being more and more accepted. If you go on a national level, like CCIM right now, the first vice president is from Houston, and she's a lady. And we have a lot of female committee chairs, chapter presidents now.
So seeing it a lot more.
So we're seeing it a lot more, but it used to be the big thing for on the ladies, the female side, was they were residential.
Yes.
They just did residential, and they just got kind of stymied, so to speak. But now you're seeing them across the board. Office,
and we're seeing more men in residential.
And that goes back to something else. When I'm interviewing and I interview someone and they have no experience in our situation, we have residential. We have a huge residential component to our commercial component. So I tell them, I said, look, do this. Call this manager, tell them I sent you, and go do residential real estate for 90 days, then come back and talk to me, maybe 6 months, and then stay in touch, and we'll see what you want to do. Because generally speaking, a young person doesn't really know what they think they want to do something.
Yeah.
But they don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I've done it. I think I counted the other day when I was talking to this young guy. I've sent 6 people to your company.
To residential.
To residential.
Go try it out, come back.
And then call me. 3 of them stayed.
Right.
Okay.
And one of them got out the business completely.
Right.
Right. So, but
and that saved you so much time and your intern positions
and residential just does a great job of organization, understanding business development, understanding filling out a form, and understanding filing paperwork.
Sure.
Well, because they're doing it at a higher frequency, right? There's more chance to learn because you're doing more of it.
So they get in a habit. So if they come back, then they have a learning process, of course, but they have some basic skill sets.
So we talked a lot about education. back to the relationship side of things. Like I know when I joined, Connie told me you need to be very involved. People need to know who you are. If you don't have people, you don't have business. So I went and joined a few groups and made relationships and started getting my name out there. When it's a new commercial agent, do they have to also like generate their own business? How do they go about getting the business to get started? Do you work under other people and just work with their clients before you get your own?
We have kind of a blueprint, you may say, for basically the intern or the new agent.
Okay.
Our business, like the residential business, technology has changed. We are fortunate that we have a management group that lets us inquire and buy technology. And I'm just using technology as a broad sense because we use it in different pieces of technology to do different things. But what has changed is that the young agent comes to work for us and they know a computer. When I say they know a computer, they know Microsoft suites. They know or Apple, whatever, the Macs. They're not scared of it. So my first thing is all new agents are told this. Whatever your skill set is, be real good at that skill set. Then your first business development is every senior agent sitting around the wall. Because most of those old guys are lucky enough to be able to turn their computer on and check their email. Okay?
Yeah, that's what they use it for.
And they couldn't do a thing in Excel. They don't know how to use PowerPoint. Just the basics. So I said, go sell yourself. And so that's their first business development. And then more to what you were told, I also tell them this, and I used to say it this way. I used to say you need to belong to 3 different groups. You need to belong to your church group, you need to belong to your civic group, and you need to belong to a professional group. And you don't have to worry about the professional group. That's my job. You will belong to a professional group.
Right.
But now I've changed that. I had to change it because of, I'm going to say technology, because of the change in our business, is now I tell them that you have to belong, or because of independent contractor.
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
You should belong and participate. I've added the word participate.
Yep.
Participate in your church group, participate in your civic group, and participate in your professional group. And again, don't worry about the professional group. If you hear, you will be involved. So that one we don't worry about. The other 2 you should. And it's interesting to see what happens when they really take that advice and do it. And I have 17,000 examples of people getting big deals because of their participation in any one of the 2 groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best source of business.
They just have to do it. They just have to, to get there.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the logistics of the way the business is structured as far as work hours. I mean, you're more business hours, Monday through Friday type of field, or because residential, we're working all the
And I like asking you this because he is married to a residential agent and he knows the struggles. So you can compare.
I'll start the conversation with this. The one big difference, at 9:30, I'm screaming at her to turn that damn cell phone off. There's not a person open for business at 9:30 at night.
No, sir. We're with you.
And
we agree.
I am all over that, and to a point that I can't even handle that.
But she's been in the business a long time. She's always been this way.
She has this uncanny ability to listen.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like, okay, that's enough.
That's enough. Turn it off. Find something else to do. Right. But the other part, it used to be, quote, everybody thought it was an 8 to 5 job 5 days a week.
For commercial?
For commercial. That has changed because of technology.
Okay.
And the way we do business. Now, it's not near the intense weekend work that you have as a residential agent. But there's always a but in there. Y'all are showing houses. Y'all are doing CMAs or something, getting that kind of stuff. Well, we are not necessarily showing property, but we may be building a presentation on the weekends.
Right.
We may be doing GIS mapping. We may be doing relationship sensitivity analysis. We do more analysis work now than ever before.
Hey, Alyssa.
Hey, Katie.
What do we mention almost every episode?
Email templates.
You're right, we sure do. And after every time we mention an email template, do you know what we get?
Emails asking if they can have copies of the email template.
Can you send me a copy of that template? I've never had one like that. That sounds great. And you know what the good news is?
What?
You can get all of our email templates from our course, Email Templates 101. Tell the people about it.
Our course has all of the email templates you would need to send to your buyers and your sellers and your clients that are buying and selling at the same time.
Exactly.
To get through every step of the transaction and giving them information that they need for where they are in the transaction.
It's great because you never forget to tell them something.
Yes, and we've already done all the work for you.
Yeah.
We wrote them and you can personalize them.
Yes.
And just feel organized knowing that you have all the information where it needs to be.
And if you purchase Email Templates 101, you do get lifetime access. So occasionally we like to go in and make updates based on the market, or if we find a new best practice, and we put that right into the template and you get that updated straight away.
It just goes straight to your course.
Yep. Right. It's just there.
It's
It's already in there.
It's just
already
there.
in there. You don't even have to worry about it. We'll
That's
send
wonderful.
you an email and we'll say updated.
That's great. Where can they find these email templates?
You can find the email templates at emailtemplates101.com.
Emailtemplates101.com.
Yes, head over for reviews and all of the specifics.
Wonderful.
Okay, enjoy. Okay. Do most of your agents show up though into the office 5 days a week? Are they in the building?
No.
Are they working from home?
It depends.
Okay.
Landreneau, NAI Landreneau, well, before COVID, we were very fortunate. I told you we felt like we were, one of the leaders in Louisiana in technology and remote work. Also, we're a tertiary market, and I also have a group of hunters and a group of fishermen, sportsmen, outdoorsmen.
I'm so glad he brought this up.
So
Tell me more, Carl.
Well, this is because of that, and this was before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I have more than one agent that had cell phones and laptops or notebooks, whatever you want to call them now, did many deals. LOIs or purchase agreements, leases, and everything, and did them from the deer camp and actually the deer stand. Mm-hmm. I even had an agent that put an extender on his four-wheeler so he could get better reception in the woods.
In the hunting stand.
I'm so pleased to hear that they're working while they're away, because they don't like to answer their telephones sometimes while they're away.
That's another good question on my resume.
Residential is like residential answers every phone call like it's an emergency.
You got it.
Right.
And here's my analogy. And I say this, and my wife.
Yep.
And she's a residential agent, and that goes back to that 9:30 at night phone. The mentality of residential real estate, and I want to tell you this is a compliment. It is a compliment.
Oh, God.
I don't know if we're going to agree that it's a compliment.
You may not,
I'm a little worried.
I promise you it's a compliment because I'm going to finish the statement.
Okay.
I think successful residential real estate agents are barracudas. Okay? They are. When you get a client, that client is your client. Come hell or high water, you better take care of that client. You're going to take care of that client, and you're gonna bite anybody that doesn't.
Sure.
All right. A commercial agent is a catfish.
Okay.
All right? They slow to react. They slow to not answer their phone. But that's caused by the nature of the business. When you're doing a residential transaction, you can call a title company, and you can get something done. Anything you need, you can call. Mm-hmm. The mentality that especially with a residential agent working with a commercial agent. And we do a good job of that now, by the way. I'm really proud of the way
You do.
I'm
I want to
also
hear
really
it.
proud.
we do a really good job of that. But it takes a special commercial agent to understand the mentality of a residential agent.
Right.
Because here is a difference. If you have a piece of property, any kind of property, and you have to go to the Corps of Engineers, you can call them. You know when you're going to get an answer? You don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
It can be in a week, and
Right.
it's just the complexity of it. This is worst case scenario. We some of my agents optioned some land. All right, and they were going to build a port. They are going to build a port. You need Corps approval, and you need.
How long does that take?
Well, again, the answer. It depends,
It depends.
but
I know.
they had a non-refundable option on a piece of property, and it was $50,000 a year, and it was based on getting the permit, and they got a permit,
Okay.
and it only took them 10 years.
Oh,
Oh,
my.
my.
Oh, man.
Okay, so now that permit is worth gold.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, but that you call DEQ about an environmental issue. How long is that going to take?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference. There's always urgency, but it's not perceived.
Right.
Y'all get immediate.
Right.
So you expecting that immediate urgency
Right.
on something you're working with, and you're not going to get it. So a good commercial agent
Mm-hmm.
gets slammed in with a bad commercial agent that they don't answer their phone, they don't know it, and you can call them every week, and it's the same answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's better to say, as soon as I get it, now let me tell you the process, I will call you, I
Right.
promise.
This is how
And
we
we
Setting
develop that.
expectations.
That's right. You
Yes.
have to do that.
Okay, so I will tell you from my personal experience, and I've had my license for 16 years. I have only done 1 or 2 commercial deals. And then I said, heck with this. I don't have enough specialized knowledge, and I need to refer that to a commercial agent that does this every day. I'm in my little residential brain, and I know what to expect, and I want them to answer the phone when I call. And it just wasn't for me. Do commercial agents dislike when residential agents dip their toe in and just do a deal here or there? Or how do they handle that? What are your thoughts?
The general answer is yes, because it gets messed up.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's the general answer.
Because they're not educated.
Or
That's
we're
right.
calling for so much advice that you
that-
may as well have just done the deal for us.
Again, it goes back to the same thing.
Mhm.
Education and relationships. I'm going to give you that education for free, and some people expect that. Now, we went through a learning experience in NAI, Light & Bloom, and Light & Bloom. And in the Baton Rouge office, the 3 managers, two residential managers, and myself got together, and we came up with a policy. Residential agents cannot list commercial property. They can buy and sell it all day. They just, buy it, but they can't sell it.
Mhm.
They can't list it because they're doing a disservice to the client.
Right.
Number one. Then we went through of how we're going to do that. So we came up with a program that the managers would have that agent call me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the only commercial managers, maybe the only commercial manager in Louisiana that by contract I can't list property. Because I can't list property, that means I don't compete with my agent.
Right.
Right.
So they call me, and then I would assign that person with the agent that has an expertise in what they're doing.
That's perfect.
And then
Yeah.
I'd go to that agent and said, I better not get a call from that residential agent telling me you're not doing your job,
Right.
because you're going to go to the bottom of the list.
Right.
And we went through that, and then I had 2 agents come to me and say, can I go to the sales meetings? And so the residential meetings. And so we developed an eight
like as an
lesson
opportunity
presentation.
to get
Yeah,
referrals.
Hey, here I am.
If you
That's
need
right.
me, call me.
That's right.
That's smart. Yeah.
And so I had one agent 2 years ago closed, I think it was 22 jobs with residential agents and paid 25% referral fees to those agents.
Perfect. What great
And
business.
that's the way it. Now, back to your question about residential commercial, and let me do a little of this and a little of that. When I was at another company, before I was a manager,
That's good.
or I was considered a manager and what have you. I had a very, very top producing residential agent come to me, and I mean, she was in the top 3 always in our market in residential real estate. So she comes into my office, and she says, "I understand you do commercial real estate." Yeah. She says, "I have a referral." I said, "Great. Do you do office warehouse?" I said, "I certainly do." First question, "What referral fee do you pay?" I said, "I pay 25%. She says, "Perfect." So she throws a little slip of paper on my desk. She says, "Call this guy. Tell him I asked you to call him and do that." So I'm going to be cute, right? Because I want to, this gal, and she's very technology savvy at the time. This has been years ago now. But I want the business, you know. And I said to her, "How would you like for me to communicate with you? Would you like for me to call you? Would you like for me to text you? Would you like for me to email you?" She says, "I don't want you to communicate with me at all."
No,
Just send me a
do
check.
it.
She says, "That's exact." She says, "I want my check in my mailbox." She says, "This is extra money for me. I don't have time to listen to it."
Right.
And she says, "If you're not doing your job, he's going to call me. And then when he calls me, I'll come in here and kick your ass because you're not doing your job." Her
Right.
exact words.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but she knew where she made her money.
Right.
Mhm.
She's not
Yeah,
getting into that.
no.
It's a time waster.
It is. It's a total time
Yeah.
suck. And this is something else. When I talk to residential agents, and I hear this thing about referrals. I don't like to do referrals. I don't like to do referrals. Hey, guess what? Not a problem. You're an independent contractor. Nobody makes you do that relocation business
Right.
and pay those referral fees. I said, here is the real issue and how to solve your issue. Add up all of the business you generate and get that number. Then add up all of the referral business you get and get that number. If you don't want that money, don't do it.
Right.
It's that simple. It's not about referrals. It's about knowing where you make money and how you make money.
Yeah.
Well, I think so many agents value money, money, money that they don't care about their time. The time it took you to do this commercial deal that you knew nothing about probably messed up some of your good residential business because
Yeah.
you're behind,
Mhm.
you're busy, you're distracted, you're overwhelmed. So now you're operating not well in either category when it could have all just been avoided.
Couldn't have said it better. That's exactly right. But that's one of the things that I try my best to teach and educate this to my agent base. Understand where you make your money.
Right.
You know, you can't look at your neighbor or this person or that person and say, "Oh, I want to go do that," and you don't have the skill set.
Right.
Where did your money come from?
Right.
You know, I have a friend who is basically retired that retired very wealthy, and 90% of his business in commercial and only in commercial, and it was all referral business. He was a site selector for a major oil company. He'd come to work in the morning. This is how far back it goes. He'd get the faxes off his fax machine. And he would call people all over the United States and say, this, and this. I need these locations. Will they qualify? Do you want it? Pay me 25%. And he went home.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So again, but he knew where he made his money.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not so distracted by everything.
Exactly. So it goes back to that. And then what has changed in the last 5 years in our business, more so than anything. We talked about the young agent knowing the technology side, knowing Microsoft and what have you, is knowing skill sets, having an education, and then knowing what you're good at. And what that has led to is teams, if you want to call it teams. And we have 2 kinds of teams. We have a team that is an assemblage of people with skill sets that do one requirement. Then we have, like my basketball team concept is I have only about 3 of these, but this one guy that does large multifamily, 100 units or more.
Okay.
But he does them all over the United States. But basically all over of Louisiana and We represent CB, we represent JLL, Cushman. So he has that. That's one of the unique guys that makes a living in one space. But my top producing agent for the last 4 years.
Same person?
Same person, 4 years, is a rainmaker. He has 2 designations, and he knows how to do everything. But you don't have time to go build a map. You don't have time to do a profile. You don't have time to make a presentation. So he goes out and within the company, and he solicits these 3 guys because he knows they do something well. Do you want this? I need this, this, and this done. I'll pay you this much of the commission if we get the deal done.
Right.
And at any given time, he has 7 to 14 deals going on, and he has 7 to 14 groups of different young people producing what he needs.
That's awesome.
And it makes the young guys want to jump on his bandwagon.
Yeah.
They also become experts in that.
Well, because they're getting more at-bats.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It sounds like y'all have a really good work ethic, and just they understand that they're going to have to hustle in the beginning. Their expectations are set. Like, they're not asking for handouts. They're there to work.
They don't have, it's kind of like my job. My job is to give them tools and resources to do a deal.
Right.
And to be the best. And we are very fortunate in the tertiary marketplace that we have 5 locations. So your software vendors call us. They would love to get a Light & Bloom, NAI Light & Bloom stamp on their software because it's statewide.
Sure.
So, but a lot of people, I'm also fortunate enough because of my involvement in CCIM and SIOR. On a national level, I know just association, and people call me, know me, and that kind of thing. So we get to look at a lot of different things. And my first question to them is always this. We'll take a look at it, but first you answer one question. How can I use your software and apply it to my business to make money? And if they can't answer that question, I have no interest.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we get to see a lot of stuff, and we get it to them. And then we have certain guys, when we talk about this team, if you want to just use team concept, you have 2 kinds of agents. You have a rainmaker, a guy that goes out and can cultivate business. But then you have the guy in the back that can really do something in technology. He can really make a special map, a special presentation, and this kind of thing. We do, you were talking about coming into the office. We make presentations to national clients, and the rainmaker could be sitting in Baton Rouge. The guy that built the product, or the guys that built the product, could be in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And the client could be in Denver, Colorado.
Sure.
And then we have someone in Lake Charles that's going to drive the program. So the rainmaker gets them on the line, Zoom it or whatever you use, and we have somebody running the program. We got 2 on standby if we have a glitch. The rainmaker's talking the whole time, and he doesn't have to fool with the presentation of the next thing coming up. So it's a real team effort to make it fly, and it just works because 90% of my listings, more than that, 95% of listings in Baton Rouge have a minimum of 2 agents on them.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Well, that was kind of one of our last questions was, in Baton Rouge and in real estate in general, we are seeing different types of brokerages. Like now you have the people that are in the cloud, and you have smaller boutique brokerages, and then you have your traditional brokerages. Do you feel like commercial brokerages, do they have different types of offices, or do they all operate somewhat the same?
It looks like sometimes it ends up. I think the industry as it is and as itself, you're going to be more or less a boutique or a specialist. I have a really good friend in Jackson, Mississippi, been in the business 20 years, and there's 2 people in his firm, him and another guy.
Yeah, right.
And the funny part about it, he does tenant rep, and his partner does nothing but land.
Wow. Okay. So they're real specialized.
They really specialize. and sometimes when you can get there because of technology, and I'll say it this way at a presentation if I can remember exactly how I said it. I said that technology will not put the good commercial agent out of business. The agent that does not apply and use technology will be put out of business by technology.
That makes sense.
And it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And we're real big on that. I mean, the biggest thing that's hit us now that's scary as hell is AI, artificial intelligence, and what you can do with it.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Because it looks impressive, but how accurate is it?
It's extremely accurate, but it's how you use it and apply it to what you want to do.
Sure.
I'll give you a great example. You mentioned retail one time. Well, you hear or you see you know that every national retailer has a profile. You can go to their website, go to retail. They have a profile of what that demographic footprint needs to be, what the traffic has to be, what the income. You go down, they have a profile. How does a mom and pop or somebody that's successful in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lake Charles, Lafayette, and they're real successful with their business and they want a second location? How does and they call you and say, hey, I need another location. What is that? What is that location? Oh, well, let's go to 3rd and Main. Why? Oh, because there's a lot of cars that go by there. That's what a normal agent would say, or something to that effect.
Right.
Well, what we do now is we have the technology that we take their existing business, we build a profile. Once we build that profile, we sit with them and say, these are the things that have made you successful. And then we take that and we annotate it on a map to find the different locations in the city or in the area to say, hey, this area, this 1 mile radius, let's just as an example, it meets these 5 profile features that made you successful. But this one only meets 2. Where are we going to locate?
Right.
So we've taken the guesswork out.
Yeah.
There's actually a science behind it.
There's a science, and we've reduced risk. Now, our big business is RISK.
That's awesome.
And so we do that. And that, if you're not doing those kinds of things in our business, or you don't understand it, then
it's a disservice.
It's a whole disservice, and you're not going to get ahead. And and it applies to industrial. It applies to office. I mean, we do things. We locate every office tenant, or if you have a big space and you have 200 employees, where do they live? And we do drive times of every one of them.
Wow.
And so that you can relocate or locate in that vicinity if you haven't. So it goes on and on and on.
That goes into it.
So everyone is different.
Yeah.
I have one final question before we ask who you would like to toast. Asking for a friend, who is myself.
You're the friend? What are you asking?
If you were a residential agent that had residential investment property, because that's what you understand, but you feel like you should have some commercial in your portfolio, what would you advise would be a good intro into like buying your first investment property commercial? Like what is feasible and lower risk for your first commercial property, a first-time commercial buyer?
Okay, so that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
One, and I know when you say residential, I'm not a big fan of owning residential property. I've had my problems. The first thing, as I say, is make sure you get a commercial person that understands analysis. And I take every one of my commercial properties and I do a discount cash flow analysis of each one to make sure I'm set.
Okay.
And then maybe you can play with that. And maybe the idea, I know interest rates are going up now, but the idea would be maybe we show you how to refinance it and get cash out and reduce your tax burden. And if we can get you cash out, then you can make the move to a commercial property. And in the commercial property, I would try to find out or know what the marketplace is like in a discipline. And I would purchase something that had more than one tenant.
Okay.
I would purchase a multi-tenant medical building, a multi-tenant retail, multi-tenant office warehouse, these small office warehouse complexes. And the reason is I do that is that when you lose a tenant,
You still have one.
You still have one. Kind of like the mentality of a fourplex.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Same mentality. I just see what's hot. I mean, if you could afford it and if you could buy it right now, the hottest thing is medical.
Huh.
I mean, it is crazy hot.
All the urgent cares and all of that popping up
and
everywhere. I heard that recently at a seminar.
It's unbelievable. Medical is the poster child right now.
So you would kind of get a commercial agent and just tell them, I'm looking at investing in commercial. I don't know a lot about commercial. This is what I have to spend if you see. So you don't want to necessarily pick your specific area. You just want to keep it broad. And when the opportunity comes, look at the numbers and make your decision.
That's right. So you need to know what number one, the first thing, what is your risk tolerance?
Right.
How much are you willing to risk? And the second thing is, do you have a geographic preference?
Because you don't have to be in your area.
I have investors right now that buy all over the United States.
Yeah.
And never been to the property.
Mm-hmm. That would be me. I have no desire to go.
And why would you go? I mean, if you're buying it as an investment, why do you want
It's
the
just
headache?
about numbers.
I don't want to go.
It's about numbers and market.
Yeah.
And so
Interesting.
that would be kind of sort of
Mm-hmm.
where I would
That's
I would go for it.
interesting.
Very interesting.
Thought-provoking. This was excellent.
So great.
I took so many notes. Okay. Do you have any more questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
We like to end with a toast. Do you have someone that you would like to toast to that has made an impact on your career or someone that's important to you?
Or even an agent in your office that you just feel like is really...
I have a toast to. It's going to be a group.
We
more
love
than
group
anything.
text.
If it's a group text.
Okay.
I think the CCIM Institute, its senior staff, and the instructor cadre has made me a better commercial agent manager because I go back that I'm fortunate that I get to see commercial real estate in all markets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my goal, I was the CCIM international president in 2014. So I traveled, and that was during a recession.
International?
Yeah, CCIM's international, so we say that, you know.
Yeah.
And
Did you have to travel out of the country?
I did. We do now, but when I did, we were in the recession, so we didn't have the money.
Gotcha.
So we didn't travel, but we have a whole international platform and what have you. But I got to go all over the United States, going to the CCIM chapters. And my whole goal in doing that was, I did it for the Institute, but my takeaway personally was to see, was there something unique that I could take back and then re-engineer it to fit the tertiary market? Mm-hmm. Because when you go to New York, you can't do stuff in New York like you do in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. So, but if there was something there, you could take it, or something in Kansas City. And then I got to meet a lot of different people that do a lot of different things that you don't even think about.
Right.
So
Very cool.
And then you come back to our little tertiary market and work the deals and
That's right.
manage the people.
That's right.
Love it.
After traveling the world.
So good. Thank you so much for being here. I thought it was really good.
It was. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hustle Humbly podcast. Let us know who we should toast to for the next episode.
Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hustle Humbly Podcast. If you have an episode, topic, or question, please email us at hustlehumblypodcast@gmail.com.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. See you next week. Bye.
This is the good life.